Hey there hunters, welcome back to the Gunners Guild. Well, we still have it. Today we're going to talk about the Akuma update for Monster Hunter Wilds, which also came with some weapon adjustments, of which included bowgun stuff, so that's what we're going to be discussing today. Patch notes are going to be posted in the link below, but I pointed out the few parts that were interesting to me here. It's pretty much just going to be changes to all our bowgun ammo, which sounds great, but there are some nerfs here on paper. Elemental got a damage reduction, but everything else seems to be buffed for the most part, which does make sense. I mean, Elemental was very strong, so shaving off the top end of our DPS to bring up the bottom is okay in my books. But let's discuss the details, and then we can talk about the Akuma stuff and the future title update too, kind of at the end here. But if you're expecting performance fixes and updates, there are none, and to be honest, I don't expect Capcom to fix anything until maybe the expansion, if at all. So if you're really curious about that part, yeah, it still runs pretty badly. Anyway, going through, I did some before and after comparisons for our MOs and shots for this update. So we're going to go down the list, starting with the Elemental MO, and see what's changed. Now, the patch notes said that the maximum number of hits is going to be reduced, as well as the damage, which does kind of suck. But I thought at the very least it would cap the tick rate at 5, so we no longer had to lock ourselves to 35 frames to get those 7 guaranteed ticks, which I would have been okay with. But no, sadly that's not the case. So our max tick rate now is 6 ticks, and we still have to lock our frames to 35 to make that a consistent 6. They fixed the FPS issue for Gunlance, but not for Bowguns, unfortunately. So I tried some other frames out, of course, 50, 70, 100, 144, and they all had an inconsistent 5 and 6 ticks on the target dummy. 35 locked frames is still a consistent 6 though. So we basically lost 1 tick of our Elemental MO for no reason, which does kind of feel bad. However, the damage nerf is not really there unless they were just talking about, the fact that we lost a tick. So light bowgun in fact does more damage per hit with Elemental MO, so the tick loss there is kind of counteracted anyway. Heavy bowgun does the exact same damage as it did pre-patch, but we basically lost that 1 tick. So we don't really lose all of that much there, because that 1 maximum tick rate isn't going to be the end of the world, especially because you're not always getting that. It's going to be dependent on the size of the monster and where you're kind of hitting. Now, light bowgun also gets to shoot Elemental MO 22 times before running out of rapid meter, where it was 20 before. So we do have 10% more meter, which is something. So overall, Elemental didn't really change. Stuff kind of just got shuffled around a little bit, and it's still going to be our go-to MO. Next, let's talk about normal MO. Normal MO got about a 10% damage increase for light bowgun and almost 14% increase for heavy bowgun, which does make sense as it does take longer to fire. Now, the meter gain is also slightly improved as well, though it's not really noticeable. So really, is a little bit more damage going to make us use normal MO over like Piercer Elemental? No, not really, but it does make it feel better to use to refill our gauge at least. Not really because of any buffs that normal got, because of the nerf that Pierce got. So normal 3s now do provide a pretty good competitor to Pierce 3s for meter generation, and they generally have higher clip sizes, so I would say swap to that if you haven't already. No other changes from normal really, just a little bit more damage in that meter gain, so we're just going to move on to Pierce. Now, Pierce nerfs have it so that the gauge buildup is significantly lower, and yes it is, it's pretty noticeable, and that's why we're going to be moving to normals for our meter buildup now. Unless you're playing Pierce anyways, then there's no reason to swap off of Pierce to go fire normals. Just keep shooting your Pierce. Like I said before, normals do tend to have a larger clip size and can generally fill your gauge a lot faster now because of it. Pierce damage is still the same though, so we're still going to run Pierce as our go-to raw MO for larger monsters, and that's about it. So then we have Spread. Now, Spread got a almost 25% boost to damage, which is kind of crazy, and the player knockback due to the recoil is significantly reduced, but I don't believe that it's going to save Spread. First is that we still have to maintain our minimum crit distance, which is kind of the only thing that really mattered and what I wanted from Spread updates. So you still can't point and blanket, which does really suck for heavy bowgun when they have to block attacks. However, you can roll cancel out of the Spread recoil much earlier now, which is great for light bowgun, but doesn't really do too much for heavy bowgun because you're probably still going to get hit anyways. And of course, heavy bowgun can't block cancel out of the recoil, which is pretty lame. So you can't, get in your perfect guards and shoot. Now, light bowgun also does get to shoot spreads a little bit faster than before, whereas heavy bowgun is stuck in the same firing time. So it's looking pretty good for a spread light bowgun at the very least. But is that enough to make you want to use it over Elemental or Pierce? I personally don't think so. The time between shots is still pretty bad, and it's still going to make you very vulnerable to attacks. And the meter gain, while improved, is still pretty slow. And since light bowgun kind of revolves around rapid fire, you're probably better off just running bowguns that can, you know, abuse rapid fire more and refill that better, like Pierce and Elemental. So, like I said, you're probably going to stick to that. Spreads, I mean, they really needed that point blank range, and then I would say they're probably usable, but they're still not better than Elemental or Pierce. Definitely more usable. I would say give it a try just so you can feel what I'm saying. Like, it's definitely faster and comfier on light bowgun, but it's still not there. Now, regarding Slice and Sticky ammo. Slice got a 5% damage boost, which does nothing for Slice, since we still have very limited ammo, terrible recoil and reload speeds, and the Slice still get destroyed if they make contact with terrain while they're attached to the monster, which is kind of a lot. So, go ahead and keep ignoring Slice. Sticky ammo got slightly better with the status, though I'm not sure how much more KO it got, because it's still 5 Sticky 2 to KO the target dummy, but the damage bump is pretty nice. It's getting on an almost 20% damage increase. Still not enough to make it like a primary ammo, but I mean, I don't know, I still wouldn't use it. I think it's probably just better to keep firing other things. And then Wyvern Pierce for heavy bowgun got a slight damage improvement, almost about 15%, which is fine. I still won't use it outside of Arkfeld, who's extremely vulnerable to both Raw and Pierce, but it's still an improvement at least, but small thing. And that's really all the bowgun changes, to be honest. Not much has changed for us. We're still pretty much in the same meta. And I am annoyed that I still have to play at 35 locked frames for elemental ticks. But outside of that, the only other change was max might. Now you lose your affinity once, like the second you lose your stamina, which is how it used to be before they changed it, which is probably a bug, I guess. So max might nowhere near as important as it was before. So you can go ahead and drop that if you want to get more like evade window or evade extender, but there's not really very many, like, you know, 2 slot decorations. Maybe you can get counter strike or resentment. But yeah, don't worry too much about max might anymore. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Swap to normals for meter gain, and that's all. So the real winner of this patch, though, is Akuma. The entire combo strings for Akuma feel incredibly weighty, and the extra hit stop they have provides some amazing feedback to the players. Like, I'm jealous because no other weapons have this kind of good feeling hit lag, and it's kind of what made the older Monster Hunter games feel so good to me. So it's a shame, really, because I kind of wish Akuma was kind of its own weapon slot so I could stop accidentally drawing my bowgun. And it just feels that good to play. Like, I would keep playing Akuma like it was an actual weapon. It's great. I mean, they could have also just done Tonfuzz or Unarmed, because this is a great start for that, to be honest. And like, I thought the Akuma stuff was going to be kind of like cheesy and boring and kind of like, you know, I did the event quest and now I'm done. But it's actually really fun to play, and I hope the other collaboration stuff is this good, because it's probably the best piece of content the Wild has right now. Is not the Monster Hunter part, it's the Street Fighter part. So yeah, I hope the other stuff is great like this going forward. But yeah, this update was basically all about Akuma, and it really shows. Title Update 2 is going to be happening, I don't know, sometime this summer, where we get Legiacris and more weapon updates, as well as a new like reward progression system. I really hope we can put weapon skills on armor, but then that would totally like circumvent your entire new system. Because I'm not really going to be excited for more things unless like we can do that, because if they introduce more skills, like I'm already like starved on the weapon slot anyway. So anyway, new stuff coming in Title Update 2. I hope it's good. But yeah, short video for me, not much of an update for bowguns. Stay the course, drop max might. But yeah, I'll see you next update. Thanks for hanging around, thanks for watching, good luck out there, hunters. Peace, see ya, bye.